Okay. Mark, all right. Okay, we're on Lamed Beis Amud Aleph. We are in the middle of the page, a little bit, maybe two-thirds down. The Gemara says, we're in the middle of the pasuk that says Tanya. In the middle of the Gemara, Tanya. Lamed Beis Amud Aleph. I'll show you with my finger. Tanya, you said to the group. Tanya, you have it over here, Yosef? The first word of the line is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tanya, Rabbi Eliezer Godel Omer. Rabbi Eliezer Godel says, this again, it's going back, Vayechal Moshe. Sorry, we'll go back a few words. Vayechal Moshe es Pnei Hashem. Again, we're going back on explaining Moshe's prayer to Hashem. He prayed for the Jewish people when Hashem was threatening to destroy the Jewish people. And Moshe
Rabbi,
Rabbeinu, yes.
Jeff asked if you can let him in.
Let who in?
Jeff.
Jeff, let's see. I don't see him in the waiting room.
He text message.
1 second, we're gonna try to our technician is right here.
Here. Put that in there. Yeah.
He's helping me, Alba. Try to go in. We don't see him in the waiting room.
Alba.
You want to see if you can get in?
Alba.
Want to try again. We don't see him in the waiting room. Okay. Jeff is trying to get in. Okay. Now, Vayechal Moshe es Pnei Hashem, right? So it says we're going on the. We're going on the Vayechal Moshe es Pnei Hashem. You might want to mute Yosef.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No problem. Vayechal Moshe es Pnei Hashem elakav. Moshe is praying to Hashem. Tanya, we learned in the Brisa. Rabbi Eliezer Godel Omer, Melamed she'amad Moshe b'tfilato, b'tfila Moshe prayed l'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu ad she'achazoto achilu, until Moshe got sick, a sickness that's called achilu. That's how much he prayed. He prayed until he got sick, that's called achilu. The Gemara says, "Ma achilu." What is the sickness of achilu?
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning, Mike. Big mazel tov, mabruk on Ariel becoming a chatan.
Exactly, mazal tov to Ariel, and also mazal tov to a good friend. I just got out of the Brit Milah, so mazal tov to him also.
Beautiful.
I have a lot of mazal tov. We need some good news lately, so it's good.
Yes, we always need good news. Yes, 100%. So the Gemara just said, Mike, that Moshe Rabbeinu Vayechal Moshe prayed that the meaning of Vayechal Moshe was he prayed until he got sick, and the name of the sickness that's called achilu, and that's what the word Vayechal comes from. He got sick. That's how much he prayed, how much he cared for the Jewish people, how much dedication he has to the Jewish people that he got sick. Until he got sick. And then the Gemara says, what's a chilu? It's fire in the bones. What does it mean, fire in the bones? The Gemara says, Abaye says, Ashata de Garmi. It's cool that the bones get heated up. It's a certain type, sometimes you get a fever, right? That's called, you're hot. Fever is hot. Here, it's like the bones have the marrow, and the marrow in the bones, that becomes heated. That's when it gets hot. That's the sickness that Moshe Rabbeinu got as a result of praying for the Jewish people. So that's what the Gemara, that's the Vayechal Moshe. It just shows again the great dedication of Moshe Rabbeinu. Now the Gemara says, Nema. Now we're going to continue darshaning the psukim of the prayer of Moshe. by the sin of the Egel. Nema, it says, Zechol Avraham liyitzchak liyisrael avadecha asher nishbata lahem bach. Remember Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yisrael, your servants.
Rabbi, he
Yes.
says he's still in the waiting room. We tried 3 times. He's still in the waiting room.
He's in. Tell him he's in the wrong room. Then the Mike got in. You got in. Tell him. Give him a different address. He has to go on at a different address. Tell him.
Hold on, I'm trying to send him the link again.
Tell him send him the proper link.
Guys, we're going on a picnic for lunch today, so when you come up,
The Gemara says, "V'chol Avraham
you have to hurry up.
liyitzchak liyisrael avadecha asher nishbata lahem bach." Hashem says, "Remember Avraham, remember Yitzchak, remember Yaakov, the zchut avot, in the merit of Avraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov, which we spoke about yesterday." You should go ahead and
He
save
even finished all the dishes. He had me with all the silverware and the pots.
community. So the Gemara
Even
says
silverware and he had
that Hashem, you swore to them, Bach. What is it? What is the emphasis of the word Bach? Here we got Jeff Ginty coming in right now. Good morning. What's the Bach? So the Gemara wants to know what does he mean when he says that God swore. What did you say? I should mute? Yeah. Very good. So what does it mean when the pasuk says that Hashem? Morning, Jeff. Thank you for joining in. What does it mean that God swore to Avraham, to Yitzchak, and to Yaakov that He swore Bach? Bach is by you. Bach means you swore in yourself. That God swore by Himself. What does that mean, in Himself? So the Gemara says, Amar Abelazar, Amar Moshe lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is what Moshe said to Hashem. He said, if you would have swore by the heavens and the earth, if you would have said, I swear by the heavens and the earth that I'm going to take the Jewish people, I'm going to make them, increase them, they're going to be a lot of Jews, and I'm going to give them the land of Israel. If you would have swore by the heavens, so then I could say, Omer Kishem Sheshamayim v'Oretz B'Telim, the heavens and the earth have the ability to cease to exist. So too, it's possible that I swore as long as the heavens and the earth will be around, then I have to fulfill this promise. But it's possible that God could destroy the heavens and destroy the world, the earth, and create a whole new world. And
What's the promise?
Well, Hashem, God promised Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov that He's going to bring the Jewish people into the Holy Land, and He's going to bring them into the Holy Land, and He's going to make them. He's going to increase them, like they're going to be they're going to have a lot of children, But God was very careful. He swore by, if a person says, I swear by the bottle of soda. So you could say, so as long as the bottle of soda exists, then I have to fulfill the oath. But if the bottle of soda doesn't exist anymore, then the oath was dependent as long as the bottle of soda is around. But he did, but right, exactly, right. God, instead of swearing by a bottle of soda, but by the heavens and the earth, which is something that could stop, God could destroy at any time, He swore by Himself, He swore in Himself, using Himself, so to speak, as the collateral, so to speak. And God will always last forever and ever. And maybe that's why, look at the language of the Gemara. The Gemara says, if you would have swore by the heavens and the earth, they could cease to exist. So too, your oath could also be knocked out at that time period when if the earth and the heavens will be destroyed, so then your oath will be destroyed. But you swore by your great name, the name of God. Your name will last forever. In all the worlds, whatever worlds that will be, this world, next world, other worlds, whatever. There are things in the Kabbalah that we have to talk to Yosef, our man of Kabbalah, that on the screen, that there were other worlds existed beforehand, and God created the world and destroyed the world. There's all discussion about that. So Ma Shemcha Gadol Chai V'Kayam La'olam U'La'olmei Olamim. Your great name lasts forever and ever, all worlds. Your oath will remain forever and ever. And therefore, since you swore that you're going to bring the people into Eretz Israel, into the Holy Land, and you'll increase their children, and therefore, morning that has to always exist. Morning, okay. Yeah, Sammy is saying hello to everybody on the screen. So therefore, you have to keep God. You have to keep your oath. You have to keep your promise. So the Gemara says, "Vatadaba alehem," and the pasuk says, "You said, Vatadaba alehem arbe ezarachem k'chochvei hashemayim." I'm going to increase their children like the stars of the heaven, and v'chol haaretz hazos, and this whole land asher amarti, the land that I said that I'm going to give to their children, v'nachalu la'olam. And they're going to inherit it forever. It's going to be an inheritance that's going to last forever. The Jewish people will always be the people that will inherit the land of Israel. So the Gemara wants to understand, Moshe Rabbeinu was talking to Hashem. He's having a discussion to Hashem. He's praying to Hashem. And he says to Hashem, you spoke to the Jewish people. You said to them, God, will increase. Arbe ezarachem, you said you will increase their descendants. And then you said, and then the verse, how does the pasuk continue? It says, God says, I will increase their children. Good morning, Avram. Good morning, Shmuley. Good morning. I will increase the children and the whole land that I said that I'm going to give to your children. So the Gemara's question is, since Moshe is talking to Hashem, so Moshe should have said, and the land that you said that you will give to their children, right? Have a great day. How would you pasuk say? You spoke to the children, you spoke to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. You said you will increase their children. And that's point one. And point two is, and you said, right? You said, I will increase their children. That's statement number one. And then you also said, you will go ahead and besides increasing the children, you said you're going to give them the land of Israel. So the Gemara's question is that Yaron? So the Gemara's question is, why does Moshe Rabbeinu say v'chol ha'aretz hazos? Morning, Yaron. Why does it say in the land that I said? It should have said in the land that you said. Good morning. That's the Gemara's question. It should have said in the land that you said you're going to give to the Jewish people. So why does it say in the land that I said I'm going to give to the Jewish people?
Rabbi.
Yes.
I have a good news for you. Maybe you know about it.
Great news, Ariel. My man.
Yeah, he got engaged.
I know. We're all very excited for him. It's a really great. It's a great day. It's a great day. That's Hashem. Beautiful.
Oh Hashem.
So the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar is trying to explain. I think we understand this pasuk. Amar Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar says, Ad kan, until the words of how you read the pasuk, you have to break it into two parts. Ad kan, until the words that God, you said you're going to increase their children like the stars of the heaven. Ad kan, that's the words divrei Talmud. That's the words of the Talmud. That's the words of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was talking. Moshe Rabbeinu says, God said that you're going to increase, but you said, God, will increase their children like the stars of the heavens. And then the next part of the pasuk, when the pasuk says, "V'chol haaretz hazos asher amarti," the whole land that I said That's God's response to Moshe's prayer. It's a whole new idea that God responds to Moshe. Moshe prayed to God to remember what he said to the Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So God responds, yes, I am listening to your prayer. V'chol ha'aretz hazos asher amarti, that's God talking. V'chol ha'aretz v'kan ve'eluch divrei harav. It's the words of Hashem that he says, I'm gonna do what you say. I'm gonna follow what you said, and I accept your prayer, and therefore the land that I said I'm going to give to their children, I'm going to give to their children. Yes, I am not going to destroy these people. That's how this is the first understanding of how to read the pasuk. Meaning, when you read the pasuk, most people don't read the pasuk that way. Most people read it that Moshe Rabbeinu was talking the whole time, not that Moshe is talking and then Hashem is God is responding, because it doesn't say Vayoma Hashem el Moshe and Moshe responds to Moshe. This is the first understanding how you understand the pasuk. The second understanding of Shmuel ben Achmeni Amar Elu ve'elu divrei Talmud. Really, these are all the words of Moshe Rabbeinu. The whole pasuk is Moshe talking. And how do we explain Moshe? Ella, you have to read it. Kach Amar Moshe lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is what Moshe says to Hashem. Dvarim she'amarta li. The words that you told me. Emor lahem liyisrael b'shmi. You told the Jewish people when Hashem revealed himself to Moshe at the first time by the bush, by the burning bush. What happened by the burning bush? Hashem said to Moshe, tell the Jewish people that I gather the elders of Israel and say to them that God has appeared to me, the God of Abraham, the God of Yitzchak, and the God of Yaakov. And God has said that he's remembered the Jewish people and he's going to take it when he sees everything, what the difficulties they're having in Egypt, and I'm going to bring them into the Holy Land. So Moshe Rabbeinu is saying the following. Halachti v'amarti lehem b'shimcha. I went ahead and I gave them that report. I followed what you said. You told me to go over to the Jewish people and to tell them that you're going to go ahead and bring them out of Egypt and you're going to bring them to the land of Israel. I told them that. I gave them that good news a while back. But now you are saying now you're threatening to what? Not to bring them into the land of Israel as a result of the sin of the golden calf. Achshav ma ani omer lahem. What am I going to say to the Jewish people? The Jewish people are going to say, how could God destroy us if he promised us that he's going to bring us to the land of Israel? So that's the explanation. V'chol ha'aretz hazos asher amarti. And when I Moshe spoke about the haaretz hazos, I told them in your name, v'chol ha'aretz hazos asher amarti etein le'zarachem v'nochalu la'olam. The land that I said, that you God will give to the Jewish people, what's going to be with that bracha? So that's what the Gemara is explaining the pasuk. So let's again explain this. It's a little technical, a little complicated. The pasuk says Moshe is praying on behalf of the Jewish people. He says to God, you, God, said, God will increase their children, and the land that I said that I'm going to give to the children. And the question was, what does it mean, the land that I said? The first should just say, you said you're going to increase their children, and you said you're going to give their children the land of Israel. So now the Gemara is explaining, and Moshe says, and I said means I said in your name that you're going to give it to them. And now what's going to be with that? Okay, so let's continue in the Gemara. So again, Moshe Rabbeinu is again being this great advocate, being the great defender and lawyer for the Jewish people. and saying to God, God, please, you can't do this. You can't, you're going to destroy, you want to destroy the Jewish people and just, and not bring all these people into the land of Israel when you said you're going to bring them into the land of Israel. And I told them in your name, you're going to do it. Okay. Now, till now, we were talking about the sin of the Egel, of the golden calf. And we were talking about that story. But we had a similar situation by the Meraglim, by the spies, that God also was threatening to destroy the Jewish people by the spies. So now the Gemara, obviously not all the Jewish people, he would have left maybe Moshe, maybe a few people by the spies, but then Moshe again defends the Jewish people. He gets up to the stand and he goes ahead and he defends and he stands up for them. So now the Gemara is going to focus in, zone in on Moshe's defense of the Jewish people by the sin of the spies. That's what the Gemara is going to now focus on. We are on Mike. If Mike has a Gemara, see Mike has a Gemara in front of him. We're about 10 lines from the bottom.
Rabbi, I got it. Thank you.
Very good. Mibilti cholet Hashem. When God says He wants to destroy the Jewish people by the spies and make Moshe into a great nation, Moshe says to God, if you're going to kill the rest of the Jewish people, it's not going to look good for you, God. It'll be a desecration of your name. Why? The nations of the world will say, Bilti cholet Hashem. Hashem doesn't have the power to bring them into the land of Israel. He was limited in his power, and therefore, because he was limited in his power, he went ahead and he killed them in the desert. That's what's going to look bad for you, God, if you go ahead and you kill the Jewish people in the desert. So now the Gemara's question is, it should say, Bilti Yochol Hashem. It should have said a Lashon Zachar. It should have said the masculine. And you're going on Hashem. It said the more proper dikduk in this situation would be, it should have said Bilti Yochol Hashem. Hashem is not capable. That's why he should have said that language. Why is he saying the language Bilti Yocholet Hashem? Yocholet Hashem doesn't seem, it's a feminine, it's the feminine use of the word, and it would seem that's not the ideal way to write it. So the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Lazar, he says, Amar Rabbi Lazar, he says, Amar Moshe lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is what Moshe says in front of Hashem. Ribono shel olam, achshav yomru umot olam, the nations of the world will say, Toshash kolcho kinekeva. Moshe uses the feminine, he refers to it in the feminine language because to indicate we know women are not as physically strong as men. As much as society today, the secular society wants to say women, everyone's the same. We know it's not true. We know there are different standards if you want to be a firefighter, there's certain things that make different things, I think, for women and men. They understand the women are not as strong, whether it's in the firefighter or certain things that require great strength. They know the women are not as physically as strong as men. It's not a question. If you want to go to a Olympics, how many pounds could a man lift, and how many pounds could a lady lift? In football, could you compare a lady linebacker to a man linebacker? I don't even know if you could refer to a woman as a linebacker. Right?
But Rabbi, you're talking about, extreme of men and extreme of women. It's like there are so many women stronger than you and me. So if you're talking about the strongest man and the strongest woman, you may be right. But we're talking about like on the extreme.
Yosef, I think there's the general, if we make a survey, 1,000 men and 1,000 women, if 1,000 men would have a fight against 1,000 women, who most of the time, I believe the mass majority of the men would win the fight. I'm not recommending any fights that a man should fight against a woman, but I truly believe that the men would win most of the fights. That's the fact. That's a fact. That's a fact that I don't think can be denied. So it's a physical way. God made the men stronger than women. That's the way God made it. That's why God, a woman carries a baby, a man doesn't. Everyone has different roles. Everyone has different strengths in life. That's the way it is. And I'm telling you,
But
Yosef, you should find out about the firefighters of one of these places that they make the rules different for the women, how much they need to pass certain tests. They require less for them than the men.
yeah, I'm not arguing about that. I'm just saying today women are more capable than in the past. Let's put it that way.
They might be in certain areas that require certain types of things that don't require physical strength. But in physical strength, if you'll talk to any cop, the cops like to have a male partner because they feel strong, they feel more secure with a male partner. I know I have a cop friend. He's an Orthodox Jew. I'm not recommending anyone to be a cop. He's not going to recommend it either. It's a difficult thing, being a cop today in New York City. But they feel much more strengthened if they have a man. Okay, so the Gemara says, because if they have to fight, because sometimes they're attacked and they have to fight, they feel stronger. So that's when Moshe Rabbeinu uses the language. Good morning, Akiva. Moshe Rabbeinu uses
Morning,
the
everyone.
language.
Good morning.
He uses the language Yecholet. He refers to Hashem in the feminine, which represents in physical strength, that not as strong. So that's what we. Now the nations of the world would say, Tashash kolcho kinikeva. God is weak. He's gotten weak like the woman who's not as strong, who's not as physically strong. And he's not able to bring them into the land of Israel. That's why Moshe used the Lord Yecholet. People are going to say that you're God. You have the strength of a woman. You have the physical strength of a woman, but it's not true. We know God is the Almighty, all powerful. So God says to Moshe, "What do you mean? You're telling me I'm going to say that I have the strength like a physical strength like a woman?" They saw the great wonders and miracles that I did for them in the sea. Amazing miracles we're going to read about in the Haggadah. Isn't it interesting that it doesn't mention the miracles in Egypt itself, the miracles by the sea? Why does it mention the miracles by the sea? Because if you remember in the Haggadah, there were many more miracles by the sea than in the Egypt itself, right? Everyone remembers that? In Egypt, they had this amount of miracles, and on the Yam, they had many more, maybe 4 or 5 times the amount on the sea than what do you say?
Hamishim, I think.
Hamishim, right? There's a lot. You can take a look at the Haggadah. You'll see a lot. So the Gemara says, so therefore, so what do you mean they're going to say God is weak? Look what God has done. But they still, you know what they'll say? To take on one king. Egypt is one king, one country. They'll say God could take out a country. But when you go into the land of Israel, there were 31 kings in the land of Israel. There were all different sections of Israel. That most probably this section of Israel belonged to this kingdom. This section of Israel belonged to this king. Israel was broken up into 31 sections with different kings. And as we know, Israel is such a beloved place that all the kings of the world want to have a piece of Israel. But to take on 31 kings, God cannot take on 31 kings. That's what people are going to say. And therefore, God, if you kill them in the desert, it's going to look very bad, because people are going to say about God that God is not so powerful. And obviously, God does not want people to say that about God, because if people look at God that way, then they won't have the proper respect to God. They won't follow God. So you're going to say, who cares what the nations of the world say? The answer is God does care, because the nations of the world also have to believe in God, right? The nations of the world have mitzvot that they have to keep. They have the mitzvahs b'nei Noach. They got to keep them, and God does not want the nation of the world to act inappropriately, to think bad about God, because then their relationship and how they're going to treat God will go down. So Omar Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan says, Minayin shechazak Kadosh Baruch Hu v'hodelo Moshe. How do we know that God accepted Moshe Rabbeinu's defense for the Jewish people? How do we know? Shenema vayoma Hashem salachti kidvarecha. I forgive the Jewish people kidvarecha, like your words. Meaning, how do we know that Hashem forgave did not kill the Jewish people because of Moshe's defense? Maybe he did not kill the Jewish people for some other reason, not because of Moshe's defense. You know, sometimes someone can ask the judge for a leniency, and the judge says, "Okay, I accept what you. I am going to give me lenient, but not necessarily because of what you asked, but because I decided on my own. I'm going to be lenient, right?" So maybe Hashem on his own said, okay, I'm not going to kill the Jewish people, not because specifically because of defense of Moshe's argument, because Hashem on his own. How do we know Minayin shechazak Kadosh Baruch Hu v'hodelo Moshe, that the reason why God did not destroy the Jewish people and make Moshe into a great nation, just Moshe, was because of the actual defense of Moshe, the words of Moshe, that Moshe said that the nations of the world are going to talk bad about God, and they're not going to appreciate God. They're going to say that God did not have the power to go up against the 31 nations in the land of Israel. Vayoma Hashem salachti kidvarecha. I forgave the Jewish people like your words. V'tonei d'mei Rabbi Yishmael kidvarecha. It's exactly like your words that you said that the nations of the world will have a claim. They'll say something negative. You're correct, but you should know, asidim humot omalomakain. Exactly. They will say that if I kidvarecha asidim humot olam lomakain, like your words, the nations of the world will say that God did not have the power to go against the 31 kings. If you, God, will destroy, God is saying to Moshe, I am following what you said, that if I am going to destroy the Jewish people, then they're going to say that I don't have the power. You're right. That's what the Goyim would say. The Goyim will not say that the reason why God destroyed the Jewish people and built a new nation from Moshe was because the Jews were deserving of the punishment. Instead of blaming the Jews for their receiving their punishment, they will say it was God couldn't do it. God couldn't make it into it. And maybe the reason why the Goyim would say that is because a lot of times people don't want to take blame for themselves, for their actions. In the same way, people don't want to look at themselves in the mirror and to say they're doing something wrong. So if they see that other people are being punished, they're not going to say that other people are being punished because other people are doing something wrong. They're going to say people are doing punished because God doesn't have the ability to save them. A little bit like we're seeing today, the world is being punished with this COVID-19. Do people look in the mirror and say, you know what? Maybe we're doing something wrong, that the world has to improve themselves? Or they're only talking about the vaccine. Are they talking about what they got to do better? You know, so that's the thing. Same thing over here. Instead of interpreting the punishment of the Jewish people as a result of the Jewish people's inappropriate actions, the nation of the world would say it's because God is deficient that He can't go ahead and bring them into the next world, into the Holy Land. V'ulam, and then the Gemara says, the Brisa continues, Ashrei Talmud Sharabo Modelo. Lucky how special Moshe Rabbeinu is that God listened to his defense. You know, it's an amazing thing how lucky you are that you're able to go ahead and defend the Jewish people and be successful as a lawyer. You know, but coming off of Trump was defended by someone. So the guy who was the lawyer for Trump, he's a lucky man. He defended the president, and he's lucky that he won, right? He's a lucky man. He's a lucky man. How much more so is Moshe Rabbeinu, who was able to defend the whole Jewish people? how special, how lucky Moshe Rabbeinu is, that Ashrei Talmud, great is a Talmud, a student, that the rabbi says to the student, you're right. You said right. I like what you're saying. I admit maybe your reasoning is better than I thought, than my own reasoning. It's the same thing. Moshe is the Talmud. Hashem is the master, is the Rebbe. And God accepts what Moshe has to say. And the Gemara says, V'ulam chayani. It says, Hashem says, I am alive. And what does it mean? What is God saying by saying I'm alive? Of course God is alive. What does it mean? What does it mean, chayani? I'm alive. What does it mean by that? Now, usually chayani can be a lashon shvua, like God is swearing. But what is it? The Gemara is saying over here, what is a chayani? So the Gemara says, Amar Rava, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Melamed, she'amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu LaMoshe. God says to Moshe, Moshe, Hechiyatani b'dvarecha, you brought me life. What does it mean that you brought me life? That people could recognize my strength, that I am alive and I exist forever. That's life. When you brought me life, if Rashi says in front of the nations of the world, Hechiyatani, by the fact that you made this defense for the Jewish people, that I should not destroy the Jewish people. Because if I destroy the Jewish people, the nations of the world will go ahead and think of me that I am not powerful. But now that I'm not destroying the Jewish people, now you gave me life, so to speak. You gave me strength in front of life. Here means like chayani. Great day, thank you so much. That you gave me strength in front of the nations of the world. The Gemara says, Darash Hasimloi. We'll end with this. We always should go ahead and first say the praise of Hashem first. This is what we had earlier. How do you start the Amidah? The first three brachot is you praise Hashem. Right, Yaron? You're talking about Hashem's greatness. After you talk about Hashem's greatness, then you start asking for things. We need this, we need that, we need A, B, C, and D. Where do we learn it from? From Moshe Rabbeinu. We see when they organized the Amidah, they followed Moshe Rabbeinu's tefillah, his order of tefillah. And that, what did Moshe Rabbeinu say? Moshe first says, I pray to Hashem Beisahi. And how did Moshe start his prayer to Hashem? When Moshe was praying that he wanted to go into the land of Israel, he said, Hashem Elokim, you began to show your servant as Gadlacha, as Yod Chazaka, you showed your great power, your great hand. Who is like you, God? So first he talks about God's greatness, and then after he shows that he believes, he recognizes God's greatness, then he says, Abraham, please, I want to pass through, I want to go in Eretz HaTova, and I want to see the great land of Israel. Even though Hashem did not allow him to see the great land of Israel, but he allowed him, he answered his prayers partially. He gave him a personal tour from outside of Israel, personal tour of the land of Israel. They was able to see the whole land and so on and so forth. I want to wish everyone a beautiful day, and everybody should please send a mazel tov from me. I'm going to also say a mazel tov from everybody, from the group, from the class, to Ariel Maiman on this great day that we heard that he became engaged. Mazel tov, Mabruk.
So who got engaged?
Mazel, Ariel got engaged. Ariel Maiman. We say hello to Mike's daughter as well for joining in. Thank you for joining in. We say hello to Mike's daughter for joining in.
Mazel tov, mazel tov.
Please.
Mazel tov.
Okay, very good. Mazel tov. Akiva, you won 3:30 today?
Yes, 3:30 today. Yes, Rabbi.
Okay,
yeah,
you got
so
it.
Will be 8.
I'm jealous, Rabbi.
Okay. If you wanted to,
When are you
call
coming
me,
to
Aaron. Aaron, my phone is open. We say hello.
When are you coming back to the state, Aaron? When are you
soon,
going?
I don't know when.
Oh, okay. So how's France?
Guadeloupe, everything's great in Guadeloupe, Guadeloupe.
He's in
Oh,
Guadeloupe.
Guadeloupe. Oh, okay, okay. All right.
Rabbi,
Rabbi,
Yes.
have a good day. Bye.
when they say the
Shabbat.
Vayichal Moshe, is that also something connecting to Mayim Achronim?
In what way should it be connected to Mayim Achronim?
I don't know. I read somewhere that is like something is connected to the Mayim Achronim. It's like also it's connected to Arucha Shlishit, the third meal.
Right. It might be, but you have to dig it up. You have to see. We have to look, figure it out how it's connected. I'm not sure. I don't remember such a thing, but maybe you found it in Kabbalah.
No, actually not in Kabbalah. But the third meal, yes, the third meal. The Kabbalistic is the most important actually meal from the meals of Shabbat.
Yeah, we know that the end of the Shabbat, you have all the holiness of the whole Shabbat. So it gets the holiest time of the Shabbat.
Yeah. So, okay. All right. I will dig more into it. I will let you know next time.
Dig more. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rabbi. Bye.
Thank you. All the best. Bye-bye.